We have some major news from Microsoft and OpenAI. Of course, they've had a partnership for a long time, ever since Microsoft invested $10 billion for 49% of the company. But it seems like the partnership is getting stronger and they have some insane new initiatives. So the big one here that's grabbing headlines everyone's talking about is that OpenAI and Microsoft are planning a $100 billion data center. It's going to be located in the US and it is called Stargate. So this is all according to some reports from The Information, who, of course, we talk about them too much. We should honestly be a sponsor and get an affiliate at this point, Connor. But they broke this story and they said that they're discussing this new project. And essentially what they're doing is they're going to build a supercomputer data center, which is going to help OpenAI's new AI models. It's going to be based in the US and it could launch as soon as 2028. Connor, what are you seeing on this?
Yeah, whenever you hear numbers thrown around like this, and then hear words like Stargate.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Forget the frustration of picking commerce platforms when you switch your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling wherever you sell. With Shopify, you'll harness the same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/tech.
You're always like, okay, like you just never know, right? You never know if this is just sort of like something that like a memo got intercepted that somebody was talking about. It was like, or even more sort of common maybe was Sam Altman taken out of context or something like that. This is like this whole thing with like, oh, Sam Altman's trying to raise $7 trillion. Remember this whole thing, right? So
Yeah.
Now, but this actually seems to be, when you kind of like look a little deeper into this, it actually seems to be not just, a valid sort of thing that's happening, but also kind of starts to make sense, right? So like this Stargate computer, again, it's like $100 billion, like again, planning to launch is around like 2028. There's this 5-phase plan to build sort of, I think it's a series of supercomputers. So even though we're kind of calling it Stargate, I think people are like, you plug that into Midjourney and see what comes out, right? People are plugging this in and out comes in like, the singularity and all that kind of stuff, right? Which is awesome. But if you kind of think about like where this is taking us, it's going to require gigawatts of power, right? It's sort of like taking a ton of the huge data centers that are already there, and putting them all together. But this is also why I think Sam Altman is so interested and dedicated to, kind of future sources of power and stuff like that, right? Because nuclear energy could actually power this thing. So I think Sam Altman is, first of all, kind of like, pretty cognizant of the fact that this could actually just eat the world with its energy usage. But also, if you are going to train these large language models, you need a tremendous amount of energy. And again, on this, OpenAI doesn't have the funding, and Microsoft is the bankroll here, right? It's like 100 times more expensive than a lot of the current data centers. And again, a lot of the money, as we know, is looking at, at trying to buy just the GPUs from NVIDIA and others. And it just, the reason I like this story, Jaden, is that it spans a lot of different things. It spans like what, we could do a whole thing on like, what's this going to like do to the planet if we wanted to go there? It's also like, obviously like, hey, is this going to sort of set us up for the next evolution of AI? It could just also talk to, this is just how much money all this is worth, all that kind of stuff. But the other thing that's kind of interesting on this is just, places like the kind of the story behind the story is things like NVIDIA. NVIDIA just owns so much of this market and they have so much of the best chips around this, and other people are trying to build these chips and everything like that. But OpenAI also has to start thinking, and I know that they already are doing this, but like they are going to have to figure out their own chips. Like everything is chips, and chips are based in things like Taiwan and things like that. Like it's when you start to think about like the global political, socioeconomic consequences of this, but especially around chips. But when you see a giant story like this coming out, like, does your brain go to like the evolution of AI? Does it go to like, how are they going to afford this? Does it go to like what NVIDIA is going to do? Where do you go when you see all this?
When I see this, like my opinion is that, everyone wants to build these kind of data centers. Everyone wants to build chips. Everyone wants to like build some more of like the infrastructure, especially as like they have like a big role to play in the whole ecosystem. So I think it makes a lot of sense for like Microsoft specifically, and then OpenAI being such a driver to get into this and partner to kind of make one of these. What I will say is some people are talking about like, oh, if they do this, is it going to have a negative impact on NVIDIA because there's more competition? Although, it's more data center versus like chip, right? That they're kind of announcing here. But they're like, like what players is, I think at the end of the day, every major company that is kind of in data centers, cloud computing is going to be making these announcements and rolling these out over the next few years. I don't think it's like, oh, there's this huge project, so therefore all the other places, all the other data centers are going to like take a hit. I think we're in an exponential growth phase right now with like usage of these AI models, these tools, and like of this cloud computing. And my assumption is if Microsoft's sitting there saying, yeah, we need to build $100 billion supercomputer facility with you, Microsoft knows that they're going to be running to the edge of what they're capable of doing with Microsoft Azure, right? Like they need to start scaling up. So they're kind of focusing on these, focusing on this like CapEx and stuff like that. So yeah, to me, I think that as it's growing, as they start building more of these, we're going to see a lot more companies, and that the entire market is really growing at this point. It's not indicative of like the competition's heating up so much as like it's a necessity. They can't rely on anyone else because it's not what they need to use is not currently in existence.
Yeah, it reminds me almost of like the bank failures in like 2008. Like it's not like when these banks were going down, there's only so many places they could go to get this money from. Do you know what I mean? Like there's only so many players, and right now, it's funny. It feels like it's consolidating pretty early. Do you know what I mean? Like I kind of keep going back to Inflection and Microsoft essentially eating Inflection. And taking Suleiman and the entire team with them and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just wondering, like, okay, so you have Amazon. I actually think that Amazon is going to be propping up Anthropic in this, but you know what I mean? Like, so in that sense, it's sort of like Amazon and all their stuff is kind of propping up Anthropic. There's no question, I think, that OpenAI propped up Microsoft. So that's a totally, that kind of is totally reversed. I guess I'm just thinking like, what's the competition here? I mean, I guess it's like, there's like Google, Meta, Apple. Right, that's kind of it. These are the companies that have like more money than God, but who are they even partnering with? I mean, they're sort of, Google's building its own thing. Apple and Google may be teaming up. Apple doesn't seem to be building much at all in the LLM space. Meta is trying to obviously do all their open source thing. But I'm just wondering if these kind of like early moves are not to scare other people away, but it's just like there's only so many companies that can do this. And also, and then you have NVIDIA too, right? So again, this is sort of like where the chips and the GPUs and sort of like the data storage all comes in too. Like all the supply chain, the cloud wars, everything like that. Because ultimately enterprises, we are on like a 4 out of 100 scale of like enterprise adoption of all this stuff, right? I mean, like people are piloting Microsoft Copilot or things like that. That's not an AI integration. And so when they actually get on this, the clouds are going to be absolutely overwhelmed. So kind of to your point, like this is where I think companies are starting to think about positioning themselves now, right?
Yep, 100%. And with, we've already talked about this on a previous episode, but with the announcement of OpenAI doing their, custom tuning AI models and saying, every company is going to have their own fine-tuned LLM built on top of, whatever their AI model is, and every industry is going to have these specialized things. That is thousands, maybe millions of new LLMs and AI models that we're going to be seeing in the future. And yeah, these are going to have to run somewhere. Pretty much every piece of software in the future, it's going to be, right now everything's an AI company, and give it like five years and everything's just be like, well, yeah, of course, every company's an AI company. So you're not a specifically AI company, you're just a software company, right? Software is going to become AI, and it's going to, they'll be ambiguous. They'll be the exact same thing. So I think this is very interesting. They're going to need this compute. I'm excited to see where this goes. I would, to be honest, like my the part of my brain that wants more competition in the market, like almost wishes OpenAI would just do this on their own. I know obviously it makes a lot of sense to partner with Microsoft, who's got a lot of the resources and infrastructure to do it. I would love to see another player, because right now we have Amazon, Google, Microsoft that dominate cloud computing. I would love to see some other players come out. But, whatever. I guess we're going to see what happens, and I'm excited to see, how this increases the...
Yeah, no, same. And I hear you. It's just that, like, but when you're talking about doing, like, creating AGI, and they're talking about the amount of, compute that takes, again, there's only so many places that can do it. So you just hope that they're, I guess, pairing up with the right people, and then everybody else is building on top of that. But, like, there's not going to be a lot of Stargates out there. We're not going to have competing Stargates, is my guess. So it's going to be interesting to sort of see where this all shakes out.
100%. Hey, if you enjoyed the podcast episode today, we would super appreciate it if you left us a review on Apple or on Spotify. On Spotify, you got to hit the About tab when you're looking at our page, and go drop us some stars. We appreciate it. On Apple, you can leave us a review with some comments. We'd love to hear what you guys think of the show. I'm super happy to have you along for the ride. We'll keep you updated on everything happening, and we hope that you all have an amazing rest of your day.